What if the industry's best kept secret wasn't a new technique, but it was a mindset shift? Well, Mr. Aaron Marcus is here to help us out with that. Mr. Aaron Marcus has booked nearly 1,300 acting and modeling jobs over 40 years, and it's not because he followed any sort of formula, it's because he rewrote the formula. He's taught 800 plus workshops across 3 continents, and his mission is simple: to help creatives succeed without losing themselves. And his website is howtoactandmodel.com. I'm your host, Robert, from dfypodcast.com. We remove the tech barriers so you can focus on real conversations. And the real conversation we're going to be discussing today is Mr. Aaron Marcus and what he's done with acting and modeling, and how does this apply to us as business owners and entrepreneurs? Well, because we have to be persistent and follow up and market and put ourselves out there and be on camera. And it does take a certain amount of stamina and persistence and confidence and all these other things. So Mr. Aaron's going to tell us about what he's accomplished, what he's helped with others, and we'll have a wonderful time. If you've ever seen some of these shows like *Halt and Catch Fire* or *Gotham* or the Tom Hanks movie *A Man Called Otto*, you've probably seen Mr. Aaron Marcus here and there, and you might not even have realized it because he's so prolific in these little parts. So we're going to find out about some very interesting and fun secrets. So, Mr. Marcus, glad to see you, glad to be speaking with you.
Oh, Robert, it's so nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. I love your warmth and energy already. And so what did I leave out of that bio? What are you all about? What should we know?
I am a pretty good dad, and I've got a great dog. And so I guess everything else you pretty much had in there. I wrote a book, How to Become a Successful Actor and Model. And, my goal, and we were talking about this earlier, is to really show people how to have success and lead a better life while doing that.
I like it. And you think about, say, this dream that you've had and you've accomplished, right? It's entertainment, it's performance. It's your dream wasn't to be an accountant or to work a 9-to-5 job or be at a cubicle. But a lot of people, they give up on their dreams because maybe they think it's silly, or they let the other people's little jabs, little negativity win. And so what do you have to say about that? If someone wants to pursue their dreams, but they're like kind of ashamed, afraid, they're afraid of being made fun of, they don't even want to pursue it themselves, what's your advice?
Yeah. So first of all, I got to tell everybody, it wasn't my dream to be an actor. That was so far removed from my way of thinking. To make a very long story really short, I went back to college after dropping out, and I needed a part-time job. And I met an actor because I had no interest in acting. I mean, I like watching movies and TV shows, but to actually be an actor, never even thought of it. And this actor told me what he did. It was mostly TV commercials, and I needed a part-time job. And he explained to me what he did, and I thought, wow, this is like the perfect part-time job. And so I started doing acting work on a very part-time basis while I was a full-time college student, planning on being a physical therapist. And after doing it for 2 years on a part-time basis, that's when I started to discover my love for doing this kind of work. And right before I got married, I decided to talk with my fiance and say, you know what, I'm going to try acting full time just for a year. Let me see what it's like, whether I could stomach the uncertainty, whether I could still get work, would I still like doing it on a full-time basis? And that has turned into a 40-year career. But to kind of answer your question, and you really hit on some very, very important things. There are a lot of people in this world who will try to talk you out of doing something that really interests you, something that you feel passionate about. And this happened to me as well, especially when I felt, after 4 years of working full time, doing small markets, when I felt like I was ready to hit New York. I had a number of fellow actors tell me, Aaron, you're wasting your time. You really think they need somebody from Maryland up in New York? They have 10 million people coming up there every single day. You're going to get your heart broken. I'm telling you, don't do it. It's not going to be good for you. And what I learned from that is that these people really didn't have my heart uh, in their thoughts. They just didn't have the courage to try it, and they didn't want to see anybody else succeed. So be really careful when you're talking with people. And I'm not saying don't listen to other people, but you have to filter everything, because there are a lot of people in this world who simply didn't have the courage to try it themselves, and they didn't want to see anybody else succeed.
Ooh, that's one of those universal but harsh but real life lessons, right? That some of these people, and for sure it's not everyone, but some people project, right? And they don't even realize that they're doing it. And I think there's some saying that like there's two ways to have the tallest skyscraper in town, right? You could build a taller one, or you could just knock down the one that's taller than you. And it seems like that's the shortcut, right? That's what some people do. They have all this kind of insecurity that even they don't want to explore. And so why go inside? Why go internal? Why not go external and just kind of ruin other people's dreams? And there's their power and their significance. And you're saying that we need to filter where the advice comes from. And if some random person who doesn't know what they're talking about says, hey, like you can't do it, or they get something that's stuck in your head, don't let them win and filter that out. But then the flip side of that is also to not be delusional, right? And I love what you said there. Is you said, well, I've got a timeline, right? I'll do a year of this and see if I like it, see if I can make it work. And what do you think makes you stand out from others? Because the starving actor is a cliche, right? Where they have this dream, but they don't really work at it. They don't systematize it. They don't treat it like a business. So what do you think that you do that stands out, and what you teach your students to do that maybe the cliche of the actor that can't get work is missing out on?
I don't even know how much of a cliche that is. Look, it's really hard to get work. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes will see somebody in a project, say a film, and they have one line, and they go, yeah, it's just one line. People don't have any idea how difficult it is to get that one line. How many, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are submitted for that one role. Only a small percentage are invited to audition, and out of that, only one person gets it. So one thing that I would say is, number one, don't compete with other people, because that will be bad for your career. I did at the beginning of my career. I'll be very honest. I would go into an audition and I'm looking around the room, seeing who's there. Oh, yeah, I recognize that person from that film. And boy, that person has a really good look. And I'm starting to think, am I really going to have a shot at it? Get rid of that way of thinking. And once again, like you said earlier, and I think this is so true, the information that I give out to this world, whether it's at a workshop or private session, these things are, yes, they're acting and modeling based, but they're really universal. So number one, don't take anything personally in this industry, which is very easy to do. For us, for actors, essentially we're salespeople, because we are knocking on somebody's door on sometimes a daily basis or every few days. We are doing an audition and people are saying, I don't want you. And you have to understand, it's not a personal statement about you. You're a good person. You're still a good person. You just didn't book that job. And I'm not saying that maybe your audition was bad. Maybe you need more training. But a lot of times, everybody gives a great audition. And then it comes down to factors that we have no control over. We're too tall, we're too short, we're too handsome, we're not handsome enough, our body's in too good a shape, it's not in good enough shape. Who knows why people make those final decisions? So don't compete with anybody else, because we all bring something unique to the table. We all have personal experiences that nobody else in this world has. Yeah, we might look like each other. We might be going after the same role. And if it's meant for us, we're going to get it. And the other thing is just remember that it's a business. So as a short, I know it's kind of a long, expanded way of answering your question, but I can tell you one of the things that I do teach people, and you really hit on this, this is a business. I can tell you there are millions of people out there who are much, 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 much more talented than I am. I agree. Look, I do some things okay, and I'm sure that's why I get booked on jobs. But I treat this like a business. I make sure that I act professionally, both at the audition, both on the set. I am prepared. Matter of fact, I just did a modeling job. I think it was kind of funny. About 5 years ago, I worked for this company, and they have a bunch of senior centers or senior living centers. And I was the doctor, and I was taking care of some of the clients there. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was one of the senior guys who has a home in this particular area. And just to give you an idea, when we were done, I sent an email to the director, to the art and creative director at the ad agency, just thanking them, telling them how great it was. I had a wonderful experience. I hope that this is a really successful campaign for their client. Um, I asked if they happen to have any tear sheets, copies of the ads that I would be able to have. And all of a sudden, I started having this little interaction after the event, just telling them how wonderful everything was. And it's kind of like going out on a date. If it goes well, why wouldn't they want to hire me again? And a lot of my business is repeat business because they trust me. They enjoy being around me. Look, I don't have to be the life of the party. I don't have to be everybody's friend. I don't have to be the guy telling all the jokes, but they feel comfortable being around me. And I'm not going to do anything that's going to embarrass them. And I can provide them with what they want. So, yeah, why wouldn't they want to hire me again?
Wonderful. Safety, basically, right, is the key word that seems to come to mind as you explain that. And I am really enjoying the parallels that you're drawing here between this and being in business, right? And being an entrepreneur, being self-employed. There's a lot of similarities here, right? Because there's that, like you said, there's the external negativity. There's this self-doubt of saying, well, aren't there already 5,000 people like me? Aren't there already 5,000 YouTube channels, podcasts, websites, app that are exactly like what I put out there? And you would say, well, no, there's no one who's exactly like you. And also think of how many other people are thinking the exact same thing and discouraging themselves before they start. And you don't know unless you try, right? Unless you put out that sales activity and set your expectations. And I didn't do sales very much, Aaron, until LinkedIn became more of a thing. And boy, I learned really quickly that, like, in your mind, you think, okay, I'll talk to 30 people and I'll get a sale. It's like, you'll talk to 3,000 to maybe get a sale. And even that's not guaranteed, right? You might talk to
Yeah.
300 just to get someone to even respond to you and talk to you. And so I can definitely relate in a different way of, like, kind of looking at it as more of a colder math problem in order to not let the negativity win. And then you can focus your own emotions, your own positivity on the personalization. And as you said, treat it like a business, because, like, we've all dealt with people who are just kind of, they can't help but be unprofessional, and you wonder how much awareness they have with it or not. And it's like, well, if you were in an office environment, if you acted this way, HR would sure be on you, right? If you're being sarcastic and negative and with the little jabs and just enough. But then for some reason, when someone is kind of self-employed in a way, and like you're a modeling, acting, prospecting, you are self-employed, right? And you don't have that HR department over your head. And it's like, well, you don't have them coming down on you, but also you close doors and maybe you don't even realize it, versus being professional and figuring out, well, what's my funnel? What's my checklist? What's my follow-up? And then if I have a successful audition, acting gig, whatever, then I can kind of add the warmth and the, just, being a nice person and keeping those relationships alive, so that way I don't have to always rely on the new cold leads, as the kids say, and just go back to the well of what's been working for me. And so, as far as these students that you help, right, where do you think are they stuck? Like, do they not think in these business terms? Do they not have a website? Do they get discouraged? Like, where do you think the most help needs to be applied these days?
Well, I think that one of the problems that people have today, especially if they're younger, they've kind of grown up with reality TV, and the problem with that, and look, there's some really good reality shows, but one of the problems is that people have this misunderstanding that they're just going to be discovered overnight. They shouldn't have to pay for classes. They shouldn't have to pay for headshots. They shouldn't have to pay for private mentoring or books. Look, everybody tells me how great I am, how beautiful I am, how funny I am. I'm going to be discovered. I don't have to spend time, taking classes. And the fact of the matter is that's just not based on reality. And most of the people that you see who are having tremendous success are people who've worked incredibly hard. And so I think that's part of it. The other thing is just not knowing about the industry. People think that you can just walk in and do things. But, if you think about it, if you want to open up a restaurant, how could you even think of doing something like that unless you've had a lot of experience waiting tables, cleaning in the kitchen, cooking, knowing how to run things? To think that you're just going to start something and have success with it doesn't make any sense. And people, once again, they don't understand this is a business. But just to kind of jump back to something you mentioned, because I think this is really helpful. I once got hired by an architectural company, which kind of blew me away for two reasons. One is the guy who owns his company, he was winning an award, and they were doing an article about him in a big magazine. And the guy said he just cannot take good photographs. He said he looks horrible whenever he takes pictures, and he was really concerned about that. And so he contacted an agency in town, and they recommended me. I worked with the guy and I showed him techniques. It completely changed the way he went into having photos taken, and he had great shots. Then the guy hired me to work with his sales team because he said, "Look, I know you sell yourself all the time. Maybe you could come in and give us some pointers." And it was an incredible experience just being with not only the salespeople, but the architects and just people working in the office. And what was so amazing was just trying to get these people to work as a team. And this always reminds me, going back, you mentioned A Man Called Otto, something that Tom Hanks said to me that I will never forget. And I think this is something that's so helpful to entrepreneurs, to businesses. I know that on a movie set, the director is the head. The director sets the tone, or the star. And that gets filtered down to everybody, to the first assistant director, to the production assistants, to the crew, everybody. This set was so incredible. Everybody was so kind and so nice. And I was sitting with them and I just said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I'm so appreciative of how you created such a wonderful atmosphere to work in." And he looked at me and he was very humble. And he just said, "Aaron, we're all on the same team here. We all have one goal, to try to make something great." And I heard that and my mind just kind of exploded. It was such a
Mhm.
simple thing, such a truthful thing. And not everybody does that. And so for anybody who's in any kind of business, if you are working with other people, just remember, let your egos go out the door and just understand we're all trying to make something great here.
I like it. Teamwork, pulling the rope in the same direction. And there's a lot of nuance to that, right? Because you don't want to, you want to stay in your lane, but you don't want to be too passive. And you want to, like, apply leadership, which doesn't mean overriding someone else, but it means doing the best job you can and being proactive while also adhering to your responsibilities. And it's like, well, it seems like if we're too ego driven, or going contrary to what the team or what other people want, or there's the toxic elements in that team, then it really messes things up, right? So it sounds like a great environment that you're in, and I'm sure there's been some bad sets, but it's always good to think about those good memories where it all worked really well, very well. And so you mentioned a little bit there about being better on camera, and I selfishly thought, like, hey, I'm always looking for stuff like that, right? Because I know that, like, it's hard, especially with Zoom nowadays. It's hard to remember, like, okay, look at the camera and be like smiling more than you think you need to, even though, like, it feels weird because the default is the resting bee face, as the kids say, right? By default, you're kind of frowning, so you have to kind of, even though it seems unnatural, right? And so I don't want to extract any super secrets that people normally pay for, but as far as in this environment we're living in with the Zoom and the podcasting and the webinars, do you have anything you can give away for free as far as
Yeah.
how to look better on camera?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that, yeah, I mean, your face is read so easily. So when I'm doing, and I would do this on a Zoom session as well, but when I'm doing a headshot, instead of doing what some people do, and the photographer will say, okay, look straight into the camera, smile, great, got the shot. See, that's not going to be interesting, just like on a Zoom session. So what I tell people is, think of someone in your life who you really care about. And as you're thinking of that person, that energy is going to go through your brain and it's going to shoot out of your eyes. And that's what people are going to feel. And that's what people are going to see. And then all of a sudden, you just have this warm, this friendly kind of look to you, somebody who's approachable. And, those are the kinds of people that others want to work with and enjoy being around. So anyhow, that's a little tip.
I like that. And you reminded me, I've heard of it, but I need to do it. Like, I need to set up a picture of my son, like
Oh,
I need to set it up like behind the computer and the camera. That way, when I'm looking up at the camera and there's like a ring light behind it, maybe I see a picture of him. That way, the energy comes through. And one time I was at a grocery store like 10, 20 years ago, and some lady it was like a wristwatch, but instead of a watch, it was just a picture of her kid. And I thought, man, like that's such a nice idea in general, right? Because then you see that, and then whether you're on camera or you're just in person or not, you still exude that positive energy that you get from those good feelings. And so you've given us so much to think about as far as being a good person and the prospecting and the work ethic and the socialization and the leadership, so much good stuff. But I want to make sure that we cover what's important to you, right? Because you're the star of the show, right? You mentioned how there's the Tom Hanks on the movie set. Well, hey, this you're my Tom Hanks in the moment. So in this conversation we're having, is there a missing, hidden, invisible question that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
yeah. So maybe, one of the things is that people have the wrong idea that, they can just pick up because maybe they had a couple of jobs in their area. They can just pick up and move to New York or move to LA or move to Atlanta and believe that they're going to have tremendous success. And, you know, I would never tell somebody, don't do that because number one, it's not my place. And I don't know, maybe you have these, just crazy innate skills that will allow you to go from a very small market to a really big market and have tremendous success. But my suggestion for everybody is try to get as much experience as you can on a local level. And by the way, a lot of people that I know have full-time jobs. They're not trying to work full-time as an actor for a whole variety of reasons. And so, what you can do is, if this interests you, keep your full time job, stay in college if that's where you're at, and start doing this part time. If you're interested in films, well, maybe you can find some student films, and quite often those might be shot in the evening or on weekends or independent films that would allow you to keep your steady income happening, and you can still pursue something that you really love doing. And, going out to a major market, just try to make as many contacts as you can. One thing that I think is really important, a lot of times people say, oh, yeah, that person was lucky because, they were in the right place at the right time. And it's all about, who you know in the industry. I have a slightly different take on that. First of all, I don't think that it's luck. You placed yourself to be in the right place at the right time. You weren't, sitting on your couch watching, Jerry Springer reruns. You were actually out doing some things where things were able to happen. I also believe it's not who you know, but it's who knows you. And I think that is really, really important. So get out there, make contacts, learn as much as you can. And one thing I was just going to mention, I do have it's a free YouTube channel. And it's the acting and modeling quick tips channel. It's a library for people. Once again, this is my way of giving back to fellow actors. I've been very, very fortunate in the industry, and I like doing that. You'll find over 500 free videos there. I try to upload them every week. And actually, the latest one that just went up yesterday, yeah, it's all about mistakes that actors make when they are trying to read a casting director's mind, trying to figure out how they're going to play the role for the casting director, because I think that's what the casting director is looking for. And I think that holds true for any kind of interview that somebody has in any kind of business. I would really try to make, something really conversational. I would think of questions you might be asked ahead of time and prepare yourself. The same things that I share with actors when they're meeting agents. Do a lot of research ahead of time. Go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram, see if you can find out more about the person you're going to be meeting with. Maybe you went to the same college, maybe you have the same hobbies, and you can talk about, hey, you're a black belt in jujitsu because you know that the person who's interviewing you studied, martial arts. Just be really prepared and talk. And here's probably one of the key things, and I don't think it's controversial, but this is just my opinion. Don't sell it. Just like for TV commercials. When I'm working with people who are getting ready to audition for a TV spot, don't sell the product. Just say the words. The words will sell it for you, because if you try to sell it, nobody's really going to believe you. And I think that's true when you're just having an interview with somebody as well. Don't sell it. Have a conversation, make it memorable, and have this person understand you're a really interesting person and someone they want to work with.
I like it. This is very nice. And for me, it keeps going back to the nuance of it all, right? Because there's the kind of the sledgehammer mindset of like, okay, well, I have to be a manipulator and I have to like do this and say that. And you're saying, well, it's more important to be relaxed and to be prepared. And so if there are some of those tools in the toolbox, and we all do it, right? We all say, hey, he mentioned the jujitsu. Oh, we have that in common. I'll bring that up, but it happens organically. And I sometimes get flashbacks to when I feel like someone would be working on me, right? And I had a conversation with where some guy, he knew I was like technically minded. He knew I was a computer programmer, and he kept working in the word macro this, macro that. And macro was more of like a 1980s term, but he thought every time I could tell, like he thought I was like coming alive. And I was like, oh, he's speaking my language. And I was like, you're just forcing in a keyword. And we've all been in those, and we've been in those situations. And unfortunately, we've done that before. But it's, good to have the benefit of wisdom and say, hey, I look back at those auditions or those conversations or those job interviews or the sales calls, you take your pick and you cringe at the mistakes or the ways it didn't work out. And you say, hey, I'll pick up on and do it better. And, Aaron, something that I also, you're reminding me, I sometimes had to forgive myself about is sometimes you go back and replay those conversations and it's like you're thinking about it too much, right? Like you wish you'd said that one thing, but it might not have made a difference. Or you said that one thing and you think it ruined it, but they might not even have noticed. And so I like your work ethic here about it being a numbers game. And you hear even about like some of these social media guys, right? Like there's like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast. They talk about like they put like 13 hours into a 5-minute video, or they put 40 hours into a 20-minute video. And it's like, you think, well, what would that look like to put in like all those hours of work, all that focused time into like the tip of the iceberg of what you see versus kind of the reality show mindset you mentioned, where you feel entitled, you feel like, oh, I should just be myself and toss up some content and do a couple auditions. They'll recognize me. Well, that seems to be a recipe for failure, right? So we want to have that humility and the work ethic and the diligence and kind of follow a proven formula from someone like you. And so you mentioned that excellent YouTube channel. I have it open right now. The Actor Career Center, 773 videos. You post regularly. And then you have that website, howtoactandmodel.com. So if someone says, man, this guy, Mr. Aaron Marcus, he performs this online mentoring and he helps you achieve and pursue these big goals of acting and modeling, how does someone know if they're the right fit for you? How does someone know if they should check out more what you have to offer?
Well, if they have an interest in doing this work, Just, you can just go to howtoactamodel.com, click on the contact button, email me. We can talk. If you have some questions for me, if you're feeling a little hesitant, you want to make sure that we are a good fit for each other, then we'll talk. We'll talk on the phone for a couple of minutes just to kind of feel each other out and see if it's a good match. And if so, we can set up time and we can work together online, and everything is virtual. And either I can come up with suggestions of things that I think, you might need, or if you have some specific things in mind, I'll follow your lead.
Very nice. You practice what you preach, and how relationships are important, and having the conversations, and it's more important than ever, and it will continue to be important as AI and the junk and the dead internet theory takes over, right? We need to focus and hang on tight to those person-to-person conversations, whether LinkedIn, social media, podcasting, prospecting, or just if someone says, "Hey, Mr. Aaron Marcus, I liked you on Robert Plank's Marketer of the Day podcast. I have an interest in acting and modeling. Here's my situation. What do you think? Can we pursue something?" And so that website is howtoactandmodel.com. If you want to find him on LinkedIn, that's linkedin.com/in/Aaron R. Marcus. You can click that connect button, click that message button, start that conversation. So few people do it, don't they, Aaron? So few people just take that little tiny step and reach out, just like you mentioned about the thank you card. So few people go and have that follow-up conversation. So Aaron R. Marcus on LinkedIn, and howtoactandmodel.com. And then on YouTube, that's at the Actor Career Center 3748. And before I let you go, Mr. Marcus, it's time for the scary, difficult part of the show where I try to
Uh-oh.
stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business. So what comes to mind for a quote or lesson?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite. No doesn't mean never. And I can't tell you how true that is for me. There have been agents I, reached out to for a year and a half, nothing ever happened. All of a sudden, it was the right time. So, and I think that's true for anything in life. No doesn't mean never. I love that one.
Yes, lag time. And it's so frustrating, right? You put in all this work, you get all these no's, but then because you built the relationship, it pays off later. And you feel like, why couldn't I get the payoff back then? That's just how life is sometimes, right?
It wasn't meant to be at that time period.
But it was later. And so if this all sounds great to you, if this is something that you want to pursue, check out the Actor Career Center on YouTube. And most importantly, howtoactandmodel.com. There's excellent videos there. There's excellent blog posts. You'll learn a lot. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll find out about some acting tips that actually help. Howtoactandmodel.com. Mr. Aaron Marcus, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, Robert, you were great, by the way. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. You humble me, sir.